exciting. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So one of the big takeaways from our second partner network meeting in June 2020 was the need for a mission and vision statement for the Missouri Green Schools program. During that meeting, ideas and feedback were gathered and later compiled along with input from the Missouri Green Schools Committee and staff to form these statements that will help ground and guide our work, as well as communicate what Missouri Green Schools is all about. So I'm super excited to share these with you all today. Our vision statement is all Missouri schools are places that promote equitable and sustainable environments that ensure the overall health and well-being of their community. And then our mission would be to support all Missouri schools in taking a systems-based approach to identify and advance practices throughout their campuses, educational programming, and school culture that reduce environmental impact, improve health and wellness, and provide place-based education. So thank you everybody for all of your feedback on that. And so as we go over really quickly what the Missouri Green Schools program is, it's a joint program of the Missouri Environmental Education Association, MIA, and the U.S. Green Building Council, Missouri Gateway Chapter, with support from additional organizations pictured here. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So the basics, what is it? Missouri Green Schools is a tracking recognition program. It's a free statewide program for pre-K through 12 schools that's meant to be holistic in nature. And the program offers recognition for different levels of achievement, reaching from emerging through progressing and advanced levels. So allowing schools from the very earliest stages in their sustainability journey to participate all the way throughout. In addition to offering state level recognition, Missouri Green Schools is the conduit for a national recognition program called the U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon Schools Award. The Green Ribbon Schools program recognizes schools across the country that have demonstrated excellence across all three of those pillars that we mentioned earlier: reduced environmental impact, improved health and wellness, and increased sustainability literacy. Each state's Department of Education is able to nominate 5 schools per year. Since 2016, we've been working with the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to facilitate this program in Missouri. When we're seeking to distill the complexity of what it might mean to be a green school, these 3 areas or pillars are emerging as a common definition for green schools that's being used by over 60 organizations in the United States and abroad. So that includes that reduced health or improved health and wellness of students and staff, reduced environmental impact and costs, and effective environmental and sustainability education. Many different elements fall under each of these 3 pillars. For example, environmental impact includes, energy and water conservation, waste diversion, grounds, transportation, while health and wellness includes things like indoor air quality, fitness, outdoor time, healthy food and nutrition. And sustainability literacy includes environmental literacy, outdoor education, professional development, and community engagement. These outcomes are produced by taking a systems-based approach and working simultaneously in these 3 areas. So the physical place, exactly what it sounds like, the school facility, surrounding grounds, natural environment, through the organizational culture, like the shared values of the school, social norms and practices, and the educational programming. So connecting people, place, and purpose through the curriculum and extracurricular actions. And when we put it all together, hopefully we get Missouri Green Schools, and it all fits very well together. So how it works, the Missouri Green Schools is an annual program oriented towards ongoing expansion and improvement, ideally driven by a diverse group of stakeholders within each school. It begins by establishing where your school is currently at, your starting point, through the use of a self-assessment tool. Then a green team is created and participants begin to establish baselines, set and work towards their goals and track their progress along the way. A continuous loop of tracking, planning, and implementation is created, and at the end of each school year, schools submit a prompt for review and then are recognized at their level of achievement. The primary tool that schools use to track their ongoing achievements is called the Sustainability Tracking and Roadmap Tool, or START. which was developed by another organization called the Green Schools Alliance. START includes yes or no questions across many different metrics that are used for this tracking and assessment. Missouri Green Schools is in its pilot phase this year, which will be continuing into the next school year as well, and is seeking schools to participate in the pilot. And schools with 60% or more of free and reduced lunch receive additional support through one-on-one work with our VISTAs to help navigate the program, set their goals, and track their progress.
Thanks so much, Anna. So we are currently in the middle of a 3-year program development and expansion project that is generously supported by the Missouri Foundation for Health. And we're actively seeking out additional funding sources to provide ongoing support beyond this 3-year period. The full project scope of the 3-year expansion grant is illustrated in this mind map and includes four primary branches. Recognition, which is found in the upper right, is focused on establishing the levels, criteria, and benefits of the awards program, as well as the enrollment, review, and honoree determinations. The communications and outreach efforts include recruitment of schools, partners, and funders, as well as development of promotional materials and tools, and collaborations with additional stakeholders working to advance school sustainability on local, state, and national levels. The program management branch includes much of the behind the scenes administration, notably engaging a team of AmeriCorps Vista service members who support the program's development and its uptake within under-resourced schools across the state. And lastly, support, which includes the one-on-one support provided by Vistas and small grants that are available to schools with 60% or greater free and reduced lunch, as well as a wide range of resources and the partner network, which brings us all here together today. So throughout the day today, we'll be touching upon a number of the items that you see outlined: the goals and structure of the network, annual survey and convening. Additional priorities of note here are the need to increase the diversity of network partners, and captured here as the EcoRise partnership, the desire to engage in some broader initiatives to map Missouri Green Schools participants and community assets, such as the partner network, and correlate to data indicators for equity and climate vulnerability, with the goals of better understanding the movement, building strategic alliances, increasing support, and helping schools to connect with available resources. So in sharing this map, we simply wanted to emphasize that the partner network is just one piece of a larger vision and project. Though while only one piece, it really is an essential piece with an important role to play in building relationships between organizations across the state, both nonprofit and for-profit, and connecting schools with resources that support the program's vision that all Missouri schools are places that promote equitable and sustainable environments that ensure the overall health and well-being of their community. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to Kat Golden, who will recap the work that's been accomplished over the last 4 partner network convenings. And I'm also just going to drop in the chat box a link to that EcoRise Gen Thrive project that was mentioned in the mapping portion. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Hope. Thanks for sharing that mind map. So like Hope said, I'm going to recap really what MeLab, what these partner meetings have been and where we're kind of going with this meeting today. So sort of back, and there's a lot of people in this call who have come and gone, who have participated in one meeting or all 4 of these meetings that have really helped move this work along in sort of this trajectory. So I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to everybody who has contributed or been present at one of these meetings. So back in December of 2019, MELAB kind of shifted a little bit in how our meetings were structured in order to have a really focused and dedicated time to developing this Missouri Green Schools and Missouri Green Schools Partner Network. This was seen as a huge need and focus for MELAB, and sort of became the target for these next 4 meetings here. So in December of 2019, we worked to kind of establish as a group the foundation and idea of really what this partner network would be, what might its roles be in supporting Missouri Green Schools, and starting to collect sort of that feedback on, like, as a collective, what our goals were, what our hopes were, and then begin to assess some of those gaps, because we knew that we had gaps. We already could see that, certain areas or regions of the state maybe weren't as represented. So we needed a starting point to begin to assess that. And sort of our big takeaway from that meeting really became kind of that just keep swimming idea of just keeping to move forward, keeping momentum. So that way this project, which is a huge project and undertaking, didn't become one of those projects that kind of faltered once it got out of the gate. So then in June, which, wow, June was different for everybody. We kind of adapted, and we were able to come together virtually and share a lot of updates on the program, because people like Hope and Leslie and Hannah were working largely behind the scenes and getting things moving and developing. As the program continued to take shape, we began to gather ideas to shape the mission and vision statement for the partner network. And from that meeting, what we really wanted to do is create a framework for all of Missouri Green Schools. So a mission and vision statement for all of Missouri Green Schools, not just for the partner network. So that way everything had a really cohesive sort of tie to one another. In December of 2020, we were able to tour the newly launched brand new Missouri Green Schools website. If you haven't gotten a chance to check that website out, it's amazing. It's a really accessible tool to bringing Missouri Green Schools to all schools in the state. And then we started to sort of envision what this partner network might look like and how it was structured. So there's a lot of different components that go into those 2 questions, because every organization has their own, unique features and issues and obstacles. Every region in the state has its own features and obstacles and things like that. So we're starting to envision that, which brings us to our meeting here today in May of 2021. And I think there's, one of the big things that we really wanted to do was share the mission and vision statements that you guys were able to just hear from Hannah. That took a long time to frame how all of this is going to be coming together and the impact that we hope to see in the state. And then our big goal is really to move forward on creating a structure for leading and joining that Missouri Green Schools Partner Network. So now that we kind of have the framework, we need to create the structure and give people that how-to actionable items and what things are actually going to look like, instead of just this idea or vision of what we have. So bringing everything to actual fruition and seeing what and how things take shape. So that's where we're going with the meeting today. So happy to have all of you guys here today. And I think.
Great. Thank you so much, Kat. Oops. So before we kind of lay out the structure that we're proposing that we're going to try after today, I wanted to just kind of ground us in our why and some of our aspirations for this, just to recall that. One of the things is that we're a big state. We're diverse in terms of economic drivers, our geography, and the needs, and they vary so much region by region and place to place. So this partner network is going to give us an opportunity to really address unique needs that schools are facing in their communities. And so to kind of illuminate this and think about our different regions, I did a little bit of research using All Things Missouri, which is a really cool website from Extension. And it's funny, and we're recording this meeting because we had lots of people that weren't able to come, and one of them was the statewide coordinator for Extension. So she was excited to know that I was plugging their pretty cool research site. It's just a great jumping off point for finding Missouri-centered data. And so thinking about, starting with who's most vulnerable. And this map shows poverty and education levels where there's a need. So the orange on this map represents communities where 1 in 5 people are living below the poverty threshold. The purple indicates communities where 1 in 4 people don't graduate from high school. And then these red areas are communities where they're struggling with both of those things. So I would say, these are pockets of Missouri where our schools could probably use a lot of extra support, and we might want to think about that when we're thinking about how to support schools going green. Another way to look at where the need is, in this map, the pink and the red represents higher risk for adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs. And ACEs are traumatic experiences, acute or long lasting, that have a big impact on brain development and mental health and can impact people throughout their lives. We're learning a lot about that. A lot of schools are doing trauma-informed therapies, and that is based on what we're learning about ACEs and how it impacts the brain development. So again, this is just a way of learning about where our kids need specific supports in the state. And then if we kind of go and think about specific issues, COVID illuminated that access to high-speed internet is a huge issue. And looking at this map here, you can see the lighter the color means the less internet access. So we have large swaths of our state that kids had a tough time if they had to go remote and do remote learning. And there's people, across our state that would have a hard time accessing this meeting today. So it's something that we need to kind of dig into and think about. So yeah, the dark purple is where we've got great access, and the lighter the color, the more difficult it might be. Food is fundamental. So I definitely wanted to include something about food and food access. This map, where you see the pink, orange, I don't know what you call it, and the blue, that indicates food desert. So if it's the reddish color, it's currently a food desert. If it was blue, it means it was taken off that list a few years ago. But you can see here, I think one thing that's important to illuminate here is we often talk about food deserts in urban centers, and we can see here that it's also a rural issue. It's a huge issue, and there's just parallel. So thinking too, we can look at data not just to see unique needs by region, but we can also see maybe where there are parallels where working together as a statewide network could be beneficial. This tool is pretty helpful as well. It's the EPA Environmental Justice Screening Tool. And this map here, I'm going to zoom in a second, but I just wanted to call out on this map, what you're seeing is that's where it's yellow or orange or red. You can see there's clusters around our urban centers, and then we have pockets of yellow or red or orange throughout the state. And what this is cancer risk that's elevated due to air quality issues. So if we zoom in, we're going to zoom into a couple locations here just to kind of see where certain needs are. If we zoom into St. Louis, on this left picture here, you can see the far left is yellow, orange, or red, means a higher risk. Red is the highest risk for cancer due to air quality. And this next one to the right is where there's a higher percentage of people of color living. And probably a lot of you have heard about the persistent red line in St. Louis, which is where we have de facto segregation that we just can't seem to unwind. And this really, this red swath here, like that's really the red line in St. Louis. So you can see that there's a correlation between the risk and segregation. And then also here on the right, you see the same risk map and it's overlaid with income levels. So the red is high poverty, and yellow and orange are also elevated poverty levels. So you can see that there's a clear correlation between air quality, income, and race in St. Louis. Now, if we zoom into, this is in Monette in Southwest Missouri. There's a pocket of red, which means, if you'll recall, high cancer risk due to air quality in the Vernon and Monette area. And if we overlay that with percentile of people of color, it's this county that has the high risk also has a higher percentile of people of color. And on the right block, you can see the same thing. The high risk is also correlated with people who are living in low income situations. And one thing to note too is here, I didn't want to, I'm probably throwing too much data at you as it is, and I didn't want to add one more, but same thing if you did a search for the correlation between, this is a pocket of linguistically isolated people. And so what's happening here, we know, I'm not sure exactly what's happening because I don't know a ton about the air quality issues created by the Tyson plants, but there's a Tyson plant in this area, and there's a lot of Latinx folks living here. So, for partners in St. Louis or partners in Southwest Missouri, these data points point towards areas where schools could probably use some extra support. And there's lots of ways that school and community partnerships can positively impact air quality, right? So it's a data indicator saying, okay, this is an issue that might impact kids in the schools in these in this area, but also, so it's a unique need highlighted, but it's also an opportunity. It could be an opportunity for MGS schools and their partners in St. Louis and Southwest Missouri who are working on improving air quality to share information and resources. So understanding the unique needs and the parallels among regions is a benefit that we think is going to come from this partnership. And then another benefit that we think this network will bring is broadening the we. When we talk about our kids and their future, this network can provide learning opportunities for all of us to better understand what our kids are facing throughout the state. And it can help us cultivate our sense of shared responsibility for the kids. Expanding, I like to think of it as expanding the we and contracting our notion of other. And so when we think about this notion of otherness, this is what really underlies a lot of these complex, intractable problems in our country, like the persistent health disparities, like poverty, like climate change. In terms of systems and systems change, these problems are these events that are at the top of the iceberg that we can see. But if we really want to transform these situations, we have to get down into this level of our mental models, to the ways in which we've kind of bought into this otherness or us versus them. And that's really hard because it's the water we swim in. It's this real deeply buried part of our systems, and it relies on maintaining this separation and misunderstanding. So this is where I think this partner network can come in a really wonderful way. We can work together to intentionally learn about these unique needs across the state and connect with one another from across the state. Connect groups that don't typically get the chance to be together. And we can make time for that. And that's going to help us make this we bigger and make who we identify as our kids become a much bigger group. And so just kind of to illuminate a little bit of this, like this graph shows some of the ways that otherness manifests in our society. And each one of these categories can be used to exclude someone from belonging and maybe viewed as a competitor, keeping them as like a them instead of a part of our we. I know during the pandemic, the othering of our elders was really visible for a while, and it was just really painful. It was not buried under the iceberg at that, for part of our pandemic. It was really visible. in Missouri, we definitely would also have to add rural and urban to this list. Rural and urban communities don't often get the chance to like, they don't generally have a great idea of what life is like for the other. And like, rural and urban are often pitted against one another in a variety of ways, from popular culture to our legislature. And then of course, we other plants, animals in the earth. And I think this one, probably all of us in this room are in agreement on that one, that our sense of disconnection from nature has caused a ton of harm. And so, you know, it can feel really daunting. We have so many different kinds of otherness to unlearn. But as often as not, for me, it's been really joyful and liberating too. Just recently, Nat Geo released this 4-part documentary about whales. And it just details the ways that whales are like humans. They're intelligent, they have feelings, culture, traditions, language. It's awesome. And then, you know, thinking about all of these, all the research that's happening right now around trees and mycorrhizae and the communication and sharing networks in our forests, it's just amazing. And it seems to me that these are steps towards unlearning our notion of us being separate from nature. We have all these amazing scientists and videographers that are illuminating this for us and giving us an opportunity to relearn our connection with plants and animals. Robin Kimmerer is the author of this book, Braiding Sweetgrass. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. I read it in the last couple of years and it really moved me. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. I've always been a plant person. That's kind of what brought me to this work. The social stuff came later. But this book really opened me up to a new way of thinking about interacting with plants and unothering plants. And so I wanted to share with you this video clip from Robin Kimmerer. And I hope you find it as moving as I did.
If I could choose just a single element of the traditional teachings that we're called to pick up, it would be the teachings of the honorable harvest, which were taught us by the plants, who give us everything that we need. It's a covenant of reciprocity between humans and the living world, a very sophisticated ethical protocol. One of the first steps of the honorable harvest is to understand that the lives that we are taking are the lives of generous beings, of sovereign beings. And in order to accept their gift, we owe them at least our attention. To care for them, we must know what they need. And at the very minimum, we should know their names. And yet, the average American can name over 100 corporate logos and 10 plants. Is it a surprise that we have accepted a political system that grants personhood to corporations and no status at all for wild rice and redwoods? The protocols for the honorable harvest are not really written down, but if they were, it would look something like this. When you get to the woods, you don't just start grabbing everything in sight. We're taught never to take the first plant that you see, and that means you'll never take the last. This is a prescription with inherent conservation value. And then if we encounter another plant, we ask permission. I've always been taught to address that plant, to introduce myself and tell it what it is that I have come for. If you're going to take a life, you have to be personally accountable for it. I know there are places where if you talk to a plant, they think you are crazy, but in our way, it's just good manners. If you're going to ask, you have to listen for the answer. You can listen in different ways, pragmatically, intuitively. Look around, see whether those plants have enough to share. And if the answer is no, you go home. For we remember that they don't belong to us. And taking without permission is also known as stealing. And the Honorable Harvest counsels that we also take in such a way that does the least harm and in a way that benefits the growth of the plant. Use everything that you take. It's disrespectful of the life that's given to waste it. The next tenet of the honorable harvest is to share it with others, human and non. The earth has shared generously with us, so we have to model that behavior in return. And a culture of sharing, we know, is a culture of resilience. Plant gatherers often leave a spiritual gift behind, but it can also be a material gift. Weeding, caretaking, spreading seeds, helping those plants to flourish. We give songs, we give ceremony, we give our respect, we give fertilizer. Every breath that you take is a breath that was made for you by plants. On the water that you drink, whether you're in an urban setting, whether you're on a remote mountaintop, we still are recipients of those gifts. And if we take the time to be grateful, that brings us into that state of humility, of understanding that we are not at the top of a biological hierarchy, that in fact we are the younger brothers of creation.
All right. Thank you. So when we think about this partner network, I really believe that we do have, I have a big dream for it. You know, I think we can make a big difference for the planet and for our kids. And I think it's going to take some, you know, inner work for all of us. But it's just a huge opportunity for us to learn and grow as individuals and as an organization. So, and as a network. So thank you so much. We're going to take a little time now to just discuss in breakout rooms. Kat's going to get everybody set up to go into breakout rooms. And when you go in there, we will have a link to a Jamboard in there, and you can write notes right on the Jamboard on that first page and discuss what are, you know, when we looked at all those different variety of needs, what the implications are for our state. You can talk about, was there a need highlighted that directly connects with your work? And then we'd love for you to also talk about how does expanding the we benefit us? So, Kat.
I feel that there's a need for environmental education and professional development, especially in our rural areas. And I mention that primarily because we have an offering coming up statewide for a program called The Secret Lives of Stuff. And that's one way that the Missouri Recycling Association is trying to fulfill that need.
Great, thank you so much. Anyone else who was in room 1 want to share before we move on to room 2?
Yeah.
I can share.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Clarissa.
No, I think the one that really just stood out to me was, you know, how can we benefit from expanding the we? And, you know, it's pretty much like everyone else said, is having a focused perspective and tools, you know, given or acknowledged from those underrepresented groups. You know, you can have more of an opportunity to make that direct impact rather than just an outsider trying to solve or deal with this problem. You know, really making sure we bring everyone to the table and get those perspectives of how do we actually fix this from what's wrong from the people who we call the we.
Great, thank you so much.
I put that more people to help will also increase their environmental literacy, the people actually helping, bring them to personally experience some social justice issues that they may not see in their lives if their lives are somewhat a little bit less diverse, and maybe increase the pool of willing problem solvers when community gardens, for example, are a good example of things that bring people of many ethnicities together that are living in a small area.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, guys. Room 2, if you guys want to share, that was Enrique, Hope, Jean, Laura, Mary, and Tamara. Anyone from room 2 would like to share?
happy to share out some of what we had discussed.
Thanks, Hope.
Sure. Yeah, we reiterated, just the need to more effectively get resources to those in need, and the challenges that we're facing across many of the needs that were highlighted, as well as the need to not only make make things accessible, but also in a consistent manner, so that there's more of an ongoing and regular relationship and dipping into resources that are and supports that are available. We talked about just the desire of our organizations to branch out further geographically and reaching those more audiences more in need as well. And we also discussed what does the kind of struggle in a way between coming together and then honoring the individual nature of individuals and organizations involved, and that there can be sometimes a struggle with organizations that really want to stand out so that they can secure funding to support, their individual efforts and things like that. And also just that there are very deep and profound, there's a lot of otherness going on in our country and in the state, and just that it's a challenge to honor the individual nature, and also to come and connect, and especially in circumstances where there is not a lot of current interaction between groups of people. The example we were discussing was maybe someone who had been raised in a suburban environment in Missouri and is now doing student teaching in a very rural area, and just the disconnect that is there. One last thing I'll touch upon is just that we thought a benefit of this collective, one of the many benefits would be just consistent messaging across the state from multiple sources as well. Would anyone else in the group like to add?
All right. Well, thank you, Hope, and Room 2 for everyone contributing to that conversation. Now we'll hear from Room 3, which was Ben, Hannah, Jeff, Lori, Maggie, and Mara.
I'm happy to bring up some of the things our group talked about, and then you all can fill in after if you like. So some of the notes that I took from our discussions were the striking similarities at times between issues that urban schools face and rural schools. An interesting area where you would kind of think maybe that they would have polar opposite issues, and they tend to be quite similar. Mm-hmm. Other interesting things of potentially assuming that rural schools do a lot of outdoor education because they have a lot of access and space around their campuses, but finding that might not necessarily be true. And so, access to outdoor education and training, even for staff, is still important in rural areas where they do have the space. Other things that we talked about were the benefits for expanding the we even inside of a school itself. So making sure that group of key stakeholders is a group of key stakeholders and not just a single teacher who's involved. And so by expanding the we within a building itself to custodial staff, administration, nutrition staff, teachers, students, you share the responsibilities, but you also share the benefits, and everybody gets to enjoy those benefits from the projects that you've created. We did talk about how, we noticed the groups of schools and areas in Missouri that seem like they need the most support, and thinking about how can we best support those schools, and trying to understand, you know, is there a lack of resources in that area, or could it also be that there are resources in that area, but these organizations struggle to get access to the schools themselves? And so how to get schools bought in and see themselves as a Missouri Green School. Talking about the 3 pillars and how maybe if that, you know, reducing environmental impact doesn't speak to them initially, then maybe the increased health and wellness would. And so trying to come at it from a bunch of different angles to also increase your number of key stakeholders.
Great, thank you, Hannah. Anybody else from room 3 who wants to share? All right, we will move on to room 4. So Alana, John, Nick, Nikki, Ralph, or Sarah, if one of you guys would like to share sort of the conversation that was in your room.
We had some issues accessing the Jamboard, but I did take some notes. Maybe a couple people were able to, but then they can also chime in. So we talked about the importance of green infrastructure and architecture and how that can increase the learning environments within schools. We talked about the importance of supporting those schools that need it. So we brought up the initiatives to sponsor native gardens for schools. We talked about potentially connecting with Missouri Conservation and using their platform to share our events, fundraising opportunities to support us. We also talked about the importance of food security, talked about greenhouse initiatives, also talked about the work with Ujima that I do and providing a free CSA program where families in St. Louis can get monthly donations of fresh produce and herbs. So that was most of what I got in my notes. Folks are more than welcome to add if I missed anything.
Anyone else from room 4 want to add to what Nick summarized?
Thanks, Nick. This is Ralph. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think making green features visible at school really kind of compounds the educational aspect. If they're not visible, if they're there but not visible, you know, people don't know they're there. But so that ability to connect with visible features is really helpful educationally. You know, I think funding's always an issue. Yeah, I did have some trouble getting the Post-it notes, but figured out how to do that. So I did get some comments on the Jamboard. But one of the things, the implications for the state, I was thinking of reinstating schools as centers of community. So in many places, you know, schools used to be centers of community, and they've kind of, you know, taken a back seat. There used to be more community events held there. They also can be seen and have been in some other regions of the country used for health clinics and, you know, of course, Boy Scout meetings, Girl Scout meetings, different church services, and some schools have gotten away from that for insurance reasons and others. So that's all part of making the schools as centers of community. And as they, you know, as they can get greener, again, that's another way to share and expand that in the community. I also, you know, think that in terms of benefits for trying to get people at the table that haven't traditionally been at the table, you know, is an ongoing challenge, but has a lot of benefits to hear diversity of thought and voices and opinions that some of us might not think of otherwise from our experiences.
Great, thank you, Ralph.
Catherine, can I just piggyback off that?
Yeah.
I was not in that room, but that conversation interests me. And I just want to say, like, if anybody has events or resources that they want to share, like, and get them to more teachers, we do have a curriculum that is used by like thousands of teachers in our region that reaches over 100,000 students in St. Louis. And so I'll put my email in the chat. You're always welcome to email me things that you would like to see get into classrooms, and we can do our best to put it into our curriculum as a resource for people. Like that CSA stuff was highly interesting to me. So please reach out. And we are now piloting across the state, and we're in 60 schools all across the state. So I just want to encourage you, like, if you want to expand your reach, consider our curriculum as a way to do that.
Janine, what curriculum program is that?
It's called MySci.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Jamie, who are you with? Washington University Institute for School Partnership. We're a nonprofit within the university.
So Janine, just to give you some tidbits, we do have a MIA database where we are entering lots and lots of resources and lesson plans. So you'll definitely be on our radar so that you can have one central hub within our database.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. One last room, so room 5, which looks like it's Christine, Lacey, or Malaya right now. If one of you guys would want to share.
Well, I'll jump in and get started, and then other people can join. One of the things that was interesting about our group is that with the 6 of us, and I'm sure this is all the groups, 6 totally different perspectives from different things that we do. And for the people I've never met and learned about 4 different organizations, which was very interesting. We talked a little bit about the we and how the data that Leslie showed earlier shows how there are needs throughout the state. Like, I was really surprised by the food desert in parts of the state. I was just shocked by that. We've heard about it in the St. Louis area, but I didn't know about it in other places. And so that I think the thing that we added was just this idea that throughout the state, we have needs. It's not just like the St. Louis area or the Kansas City area that has needs. So that was one of the things we talked about. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in.
I think we also started out not really sure how to do the session. So we definitely spent a lot of time getting to know each other, interacting, which was also helpful and useful.
Yes. Great, thank you, Lacey and Christine. Well, that brings us to the end of our breakout session and share out this Jamboard. I'm sure
Leslie mentioned previously, Missouri is a large state. Currently, pretty much all of our infrastructure is here in St. Louis. And so as we move forward, this is going to be important that we establish these regional hubs that will allow maybe some of the regions who need a little bit more support or a little bit more infrastructure, they can meet amongst each other regularly, because the needs in St. Louis might look different than the needs of the folks in the Ozarks. And so making sure that we're creating support networks for the specific regions and doing things that really focus and really specific to those areas. So the regional hubs, in addition to meeting regularly, they will provide support to the Missouri Green schools within their region, helping them advance in their communities. And then also the goal for the hubs is to provide information about the different services in each region that will be included in a resource database that can be utilized by the specific regions and the state as a whole. And so with that, just thinking about the support system. So the goal is to have a vista be in charge of kind of coordinating the partner network. And so they will be tasked with supporting the development and ongoing maintenance of the regional hubs. They'll do things like coordinate the annual statewide partner network meeting, stay in contact with the regional hub coordinators, which I'll talk about in a second, to establish the goals of those meetings and then help, even if they're needed to participate in those meetings virtually, they will. The VISTA will also build capacity for the partner network, helping provide resources and support across the 3 pillars of the Missouri Green Schools program, focusing on the low income and under-resourced Missouri schools. Also going to support with the goal of mapping state and regional health, environmental and equity indicators, and then working with network members and the resource to support schools in advancing their efforts. Also be working with the partner members to share any Missouri Green Schools materials or resources, coordinating professional development opportunities. We talked about initially focusing on equity and issues pertaining to Black and Indigenous folks, as well as our queer and trans siblings. So professional development can also manifest in different areas going forward, but that VISTA will help coordinate those. Also helping to get the partners to complete the partner survey, which will be needed to be completed annually. And then also helping organize community service projects within the partner network that will support the Missouri Green School, the MGS Plus schools. And then also maintain the continuity of the partner network communication, and then also support with the VISTAs, because you know, that is a year-long term, and then there's a new cohort, so helping with that transition as well. So that's the gist of what the VISTA will be doing and pertains to the partner network. But then each specific region within Missouri is going to have a hub coordinator. Starting out, this will be a volunteer position. We are looking to make this position more sustainable going forward and have it be a paid position, but at the moment, it's going to be a volunteer. And so this volunteer for each specific region, they would have to submit an application for this leadership role. It would be ideally a 2-year commitment. And then obviously we want the hub coordinators to actually live in the region that they're representing. The coordinator would check in with the VISTA partner network coordinator bi-monthly. They will help organize hub meetings within our region as needed. And then also assist the VISTA in planning a community service project annually. And so this is an estimated time commitment of 4 to 8 hours a month. And then, yeah, and so in addition to that, we would have the partners that are in the network itself. And so obviously the partners are individuals who are supporting the mission and vision of Missouri Green Schools, providing some type of service, whether that is a donated service or a paid service to schools that will help them advance in one of the pillars. The partner will also be in charge of filling out the survey as well, attending partner network meetings as needed, and then promoting the Missouri Green Schools to other partners, share what they're doing with folks in the state, and then also participating in that community service project in your specific region. And so that is kind of the gist of what the responsibilities of a partner is going to be. And then obviously the benefits of being recognized on the Missouri Green Schools website, having the ability to network and collaborate with other like-minded individuals and folks in the and organizations in the region, and then just strengthening the potential for green pathways for youth in Missouri. And then the kind of final piece of the puzzle is the partner survey and the resource database. So the partner survey, mentioned a little bit about that earlier, but just an annual survey that will allow us to just keep track of the resources that you are providing, that we can obviously share with the rest of the region. And then this data would then work in conjunction with a resource database that will provide specific resources based on category to the different regions. And so, making sure that we have opportunities that schools or communities can get involved in at a state level, but then also very specific to their region. And so, this support system is going to work in conjunction to really strengthen this partner network and really further our mission and vision of providing a really awesome learning and growing environment for the next generation. I think that's about it for me.
Thank you, Nick. Do we want to pause here for Q&A? Or let me see. Yeah, I guess we were going to. Actually, Hope, you're up next, and then we're going to have Q&A. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Hope.
Sure. Yes. Thanks so much, Nick. And I know that was a lot of information, and would just mention that we will send and follow up to this meeting just an outline that talks a little bit more about all of those different roles and responsibilities of being a regional partner and the hub coordinators and things like that. So, just so that you have that handy in a written form as well. So right now, let's see here. Sorry, one moment, I'm just getting caught up. So Nick mentioned a partner survey that has gone out to gather information about specific services that partners offer to schools, which will be displayed in this resource database that we're working on. We do appreciate each of the organizations listed here whom have already completed that survey to fill us in on what resources they have to offer. Regardless of whether your organization is listed here right now, so if it's listed or not, we do ask that each of you here today take just 2 minutes to confirm if you're interested in engaging in the network. So I am placing a link in the chat right now and ask that you please just take a moment to fill that out. Essentially just yes or no, would you like to get involved? And additionally, we'd love your input on when a good meeting time would be for the next full network meeting. The Missouri Environmental Literacy Advisory Board, or MELAB meeting that this effort has spun out of will transition to an annual meeting in November, which aligns with the MIA annual conference. And there will be one separate annual meeting for this MGS partner network. So a poll should appear on your computers pretty soon here, asking if the months of February, May, or June would work well for you, and you can select more than one. We have been meeting on the second Thursday. We have not confirmed if that will be carried forward, but it is likely that we may be aiming for that kind of second Thursday timeframe within that month. So thanks for providing your input there. And at this point, we are excited to open the floor for Q&A or any questions, comments that you'd like to share. And all of the presenters are here to field any questions that you have.
And it's looking like February might be a great month.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking we probably should have taken May out of the options because there were so many people. Like Enrique, you're here from higher ed. I'm not sure if we had anyone else from higher ed. Some of our other contexts, they're finishing up finals and there was no way. So May is a busy month.
So this is Ralph. I'm not quite sure what it means to be a partner, what the responsibilities and obligations are of a partner, what kind of commitment one is making to be a partner. And so is there something that spells that out in more detail? Is that in the survey or where is that?
Yeah, we will share out a written document after this meeting that really goes into that a little bit more, but in a nutshell, I would say to be a partner, really just supporting the mission and vision of Missouri Green Schools, providing a service that helps schools to advance in one of those three core areas of reducing environmental impact, improving health and wellness, or increasing sustainability literacy. And these can be for-profit or nonprofit. Resources could be anything from services or products that are provided to internship possibilities for high school students, guest speakers, volunteers. It's pretty wide ranging. And then we really ask that every one of the partners fill out this larger survey, which was presented during Nick's portion. And that will dig into specifically what services you're offering and feed into this resource database that we'll have available for schools, which we are aiming to have up and running by this next annual meeting. In addition to that, that's really kind of the bulk of it, but in addition, we would ask that partners attend the annual meeting and identify at least one of the regional hubs to participate in. And then really just helping to promote Missouri Green Schools program to schools and partners and celebrating all that's going on within your region that relates to that as well. Nick mentioned we are planning to organize some community service opportunities within each of those regional hubs as well. And we do ask that partners engage in that opportunity as well.
Great. Yeah, great. Yeah, so I do realize that Nick mentioned a lot of those things, so thanks. And I see in the chat there, it looks like the last thing in the chat might be the quick form to fill out. Is that the survey we're talking about?
So it's not the big survey. It's just a quick, you were here today and you're confirming, yep, you still want us to reach out to you and keep the ball rolling from where we are today. So, and it's also an opportunity to share if you're interested in being a hub coordinator for your region.
So how do I get access to the survey form? Sorry.
Are you talking about the short one?
No, the long one.
The long one. We will send it to you.
Ah, awesome.
I will send it to you today.
Thanks.
Okay, maybe not today.
I'll see
if I'm being perfectly honest.
It'll come. That's all right.
If I can pull it up while we're meeting here.
Okay. Any other questions that have, we threw a lot of information at you today.
So could you put the previous screen up where you had sort of like the various orgs?
Yeah, so these are the folks that have already completed the survey. Just if you're with one of them, then you would know. We still would love for you to fill out that short survey that's in the chat. And that's where you could indicate but these are just folks that have already filled out the long survey. Yeah.
And our executive director, she doesn't know if she wants to participate, but I guess that's why I'm here, being ears or whatever. So she has sort of like a statewide organization, so it and has people distributed in different regions, so it might make sense to call someone representing MIA for her to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Who would that be?
Any of us. I would say probably the three main folks would be either me or Nick or Hope.
Okay. So I can't commit for that organization, but I can get a phone call going. So
sure. And
I'll
if
worry
you'll
about
see that interest form is, would you like to be part of the network? Yes, no, or unsure. So go ahead and take it out, and then go ahead and fill that out, and then we will make sure that we follow up.
Will do.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
If I can show you all one quick thing, if you're all interested. Can you see my screen? Can we still see my screen? Okay. In the, remember where our resource database is. Here it is. So this is our first searchable database, and this is on the MIA website. And so folks can search different categories of education resources. This is our vision for something similar with the partner network, is, searching partners who, can be based on their region, the type of resource they provide, all different things. So that's not put together yet, but we're hoping by the end of the year. I just wanted to show that to y'all real quick, so you can kind of have a vision of where you might be, people might find you. And it would be not on the MIA website, but on the Missouri Green Schools website within a website. So, so yeah.
And that link to the larger partner survey that'll feed into that resource database is now in the chat.
Yeah, I found it there. Thanks, Hope, and it linked just fine.
Thank you, Hope.
Oh, good. Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, we really, really appreciate everyone being here today, and for your participation. We look forward to working together more as time goes on. And as a reminder that green schools are not only possible, they are happening across the state. We'd like to close things out with a snapshot of some success stories. Hannah Carter is going to close us out with a showcase of initiatives that are taking place within her school district, Parkway School District, as well as Sunrise in DeSoto, Missouri, and Flance Early Learning Center in St. Louis.
Yeah, thank you, Hope. I'm super excited to end on a really positive and inspiring note here today and kind of show Missouri Green Schools in action, some of the things that are going on recently within our state, and kind of highlighting 3 schools that are all at a very different level in terms of, where they're located in the state and grades they teach, their size, all the above. So first we'll go into Sunrise. You want to click to the next slide. So Sunrise School is a perfect example of the power of partnerships and leveraging community resources. And because of that, they were recognized as a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School in 2020. So Sunrise is located in DeSoto, Missouri. They're a rural pre-K through 8 school with 300 students. And just for reference, they have about 55% free and reduced priced lunch. Students that receive free and reduced price lunch. So Sunrise's story is really inspirational. A student-led initiative to create a garden started in 2015, just as a small area around their flagpole. And as word spread, the parents and community involvement grew. Over the next 5 years, Sunrise collaborated with over 14 community organizations that helped to provide hands-on learning with real world applications to their students. Some of those included the Jefferson County Bee Association, who came and helped teach students about the importance of bees and later helped them install 2 beehives on their campus. Students there are now involved in helping to maintain the hives, extract the honey, and sell it every year to the community. Sunrise also goes above and beyond student education by getting families and community members involved, an important contributor to their Green Ribbon Schools recognition. The recycling program includes a partnership with Trex to recycle plastic and plastic film into boards for their garden beds. And in doing so, they're also teaching families about the importance of recycling and encouraging families and community members to bring in plastic for recycling in a contest sort of format. And another cool thing to note is that through partnerships with local farmers, Sunrise plans to reduce their cafeteria waste by 90%, allowing hog farmers to pick up food waste daily from their schools to then be used as feed on their farms. So a really unique and creative example of community partnerships at Sunrise. Next up, I'll talk a little bit about Parkway School District. I do work at Parkway, by the way. And so Parkway is located in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a suburban pre-K through 12 district with 18,000 students, and 19% of students receive free and reduced price lunch. So Parkway has a really long history towards sustainability and commitment to reducing environmental impact. And in 2020, the district was awarded that District Green Ribbon, U.S. Department of Green Ribbon Award. And then we have 6 schools who had received their own individual recognition in previous years. So some of the things to note about Parkway is that we have developed district sustainability goals and implemented board policies around sustainability as a whole, but also energy, waste, water, tangible things that we're trying to hold ourselves accountable to, and meeting specific goals with actual achievable numbers and end dates. Part of that is by signing on to the U.S. Department of Energy's Better Buildings Challenge. So our district and our board committed to a 20% energy reduction by 2025. And we met that goal 5 years early. And so we re-signed on last year for a 35% energy reduction by that same year, 2025. And luckily we're on track to meet that goal. Currently, since 2015, we've reduced energy use 34%, and resulting in about $1 million a year in reduced energy spending. We also partner with St. Louis Composting to provide composting to all of our schools, which helps to divert nearly 200 tons of waste annually from the landfills. We have solar arrays on all 34 of our buildings and a 180 well geothermal heat pump that provides renewable, stable energy from underground. We've also developed a Sustainable Schools Challenge for the district, in which schools compete, earning points by completing activities that align with our sustainability goals. And despite this year's challenges, I've been so excited to see that over 900 students and staff have participated from over 29 of our schools. And another partnership to highlight is with the Missouri Botanical Gardens Earthway Center. In 2019, we partnered with the Earthway Center, and they helped us work with a group of teachers to create environmental education principles that were then passed by the Board of Education and implemented into guaranteed curriculum for all elementary students. We then work with Earthways to look at existing curriculum that we had for science that was Project Lead the Way, and develop the sustainability connections for every lesson and activity within those units that allows teachers to put a lens of sustainability on units that they're already teaching. Next, I'll go to Flance Early Learning Center. So Flance is an early learning center, a private early learning center in St. Louis, more towards the city, around 64 students and 86% that receive free and reduced price lunches. Flance Early Learning Center strives for excellence through educating and nurturing children, supporting families, and strengthening communities by educating students and families about growing and preparing healthy foods encouraging physical activity and green practices. So Flance's building was designed with LEED certification in mind and the idea of bringing the outdoors in. So they maximize daylighting opportunities in classrooms, reducing the need for overhead lighting. They collect rainwater in complex form of cisterns and bioswales that they can then use for irrigation as well in their gardens. And another great thing to highlight is their on-site composting and reusable food serviceware that they use to really cut down on their food waste. Through a partnership with Urban Harvest, Flance is able to provide ongoing educational curriculum that incorporates nutrition and gardening and health education all together through things like scavenger hunts, plant identification, harvesting, planting, tastings, learning about fresh food nutrition. They really do it all. And with their partnership through our Urban Harvest and their community garden, they provide cooking classes to families using the produce provided in their gardens. And any additional food that they harvest, they distribute to families at no cost. Yeah, sorry, that was it I have for Flance. So I'm really excited by what Missouri Green Schools have been able to accomplish, and really excited to see how this program is able to expand in the years to come. I hope that these stories are really inspiring and highlight the importance of community partnerships and how this regional partner network can really expand our vision. And if you're ever interested in joining the Missouri Green Schools Committee, just let me or Hope or Leslie know, and we would love to have any of you. And so, yeah, I would just like to end it there and say thank you all so much for joining us today, and we really look forward to working with everyone. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. I'm so excited. I wanted to just add, because I think Flance is so cool, because I can't remember who said it earlier in the meeting about schools, like the desire to return to community hubs, schools as community hubs, and Flance is definitely that. So that's really cool. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. It looks like February is when we're going to be meeting again. So that's great. We have a few months to kind of get our ducks in a row, find our VISTA, find our hub coordinators. But I'm really, really excited by the continued momentum. And it's really, it's wonderful to see new faces today. I just think we're going to continue to grow. So
if I may share a story, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Young. I'm a school teacher in North County, and I had my kids in PE class. I took them outside the last 10 minutes of class out in the parking lot. Yesterday, I saw a Baltimore Oriole by myself in the back parking lot. Today, I said, let's go look for it. And I showed them what we were looking for. And we were out there 5 seconds, and a yellow warbler perched right in front of us. It was crazy. It was awesome.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you everybody for being here. Hope, Nick, Kat, do any of you want to add anything before we adjourn?
Just a huge thanks for taking the time today. We know that this was a lengthy meeting, and hope that you found it beneficial. And we're really looking forward to working with everyone on expanding school sustainability across the state.
Yep. Thank you so much. Spread the word. We'll talk to you soon.